Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be talking about 5-minute epoxy and kind of a recent frustration I've had with some brands. We'll be doing a bit of gluing in this video, so let's start by cutting some XPS foam on the Proxxon hot wire foam cutter. These first two examples, well, the JB weld is technically called a 2-part urethane, but the syringe style applicator is the interesting bit here. These little syringe style applicators are fine for occasional use, but not so cost effective if you're going to use a lot of this epoxy. Several years ago, I began using the Loctite brand epoxy in these 4-ounce bottles, 4 ounces of resin and 4 ounces of hardener. These bottles were a real savings over the syringe style, costing a little under $3 per ounce, as opposed to costing over $7 an ounce in the syringe dispensers. Several months ago, I bought the Loctite again, but the resin bottle arrived hard as a rock and of course unable to be used. I recently ordered it again thinking that was just a one-off, but it happened again, another bottle of spoiled resin. The resin bottle was sealed properly, it was just hard as a rock. Okay, so I returned the Loctite and I thought I'd give a try to Devcon, a brand I hadn't used before but sold in the same 4-ounce bottles. This brand gets good reviews online, and it was even a few dollars cheaper than the Loctite. Here we're taking the seal off the bottle of resin, and, well, you'll see here what I saw once I removed this seal. And it's jelly. It's crystallized epoxy resin, and it's worthless. I hadn't seen this before in any epoxy resin. I figured since the camera was rolling, I'd scoop some out and show it on screen. I'm glad I was wearing gloves, as you can really see the texture of this resin. At this point, I'm sort of wondering if I'm cursed with epoxy resin. Kidding aside, I really was surprised at this result. My surprise gloves. I again returned this epoxy and put in another order over at Amazon. Back to the Loctite brand for a moment. I used to be able to buy these 4-ounce bottles locally at Home Depot, but they no longer carry it. I called around and couldn't find the Devcon brand sold in stores either. I guess these bottles aren't very popular. Before opening the seals on these replacement Devcon bottles, I looked and they both appear to be liquid, not gel, so that's promising. Alright, the seal on the resin bottle came off clean, and dipping a coffee stirrer in, we definitely have a liquid here. A quick smear on the gloves for the camera, and it looks like we're good to go. As long as the camera's running, we'll also pop the top on the bottle of hardener. And are you kidding me? Are seals on bottles of liquid really this difficult to master? There looks to be a hole in the center of this seal. I don't know what that's about, but the liquid hardener still looks liquid. Messy in the screw top and the nozzle, but we'll carry on with it. I'll mix up a bit of our epoxy on scraps of brown cardstock for testing on the XPS foam chunks we cut earlier. I find these thin wood stirrers work really well for me. They're cheap and they do a good job. A bit of wax paper underneath to prevent unwanted sticking to work surfaces is a good idea. Next up is the 5-minute epoxy on foam chunk montage. No real design here, just a bit of epoxy on bits of foam chunks. Here's the result after about 10 minutes. Not a terribly neat job, but good enough to test this Devcon brand, and it seems fine. Well, as long as we're playing a bit with foam and epoxy, why not build up our little foam pillars? This is the bonus montage. Well, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to win any design awards for bridges or portals here, but this is good enough to test this new Devcon epoxy, and it seems fine. I did notice though that it seems to cure with a bit of white color instead of completely clear. Now I'm not sure if this is normal for this brand, or if that bottle of hardener with the broken seal allowed moisture in, resulting in a slight white color. This whole epoxy experience did get me thinking. After 2 bad batches of Loctite and 1.5 questionable batches of Devcon, how do other companies master the mystic art of sealing bottles? Maybe these epoxy companies should call the Golden Blossom Honey Company for bottle sealing tips. That's just a thought. In any case, that's our 5-minute epoxy video in just about 5 minutes. Well, that seems nice and tidy. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and give that subscribe button a click. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next video.